Hello, my name is Heather and I am the owner of Party Masters. Today we are on lesson number 8, swirls. So you want to load up your number 3 brush right up to the ferrule so that you're ready to start with these swirls. Now, similar to teardrops, we want to go in each direction or practice in each direction. So we're going to do a thin to thick to thin line. Thin to thick to thin as you go around. Thin to thick to thin. Thin to thick to thin. Now it's also important that you learn how to do them in the other direction. So let's start here. Thin to thick to thin. Thin to thick to thin. If you do them all the same size without going thin to thick to thin, it looks very much like just a regular letter or something. You'll look like the letter C usually. So keep practicing that. Go in each direction. You can make them different sizes. You can start practicing doing some smaller ones if you prefer. Just remember to keep going thick to thin to thick. Or I'm sorry, thin to thick to thin. So let's get that brush loaded again, right up to the ferrule. And we're going to start by making another crown idea. Okay, I'm going to make like an infinity symbol, but I'm going to not close the bottom of it. Okay. Now we want to do our swirls, starting wherever you like. I would start at this spot right here, thin to thick to thin, and then another one starting up at the top, thin to thick to thin. Again from the bottom, thin to thick to thin. Now, do you see how you're making a design just based on these alone? Thin to thick to thin. Now, I would stop about here because this is the eye line. Now, we can go in and we can say double up a little bit. Just make them, give them a little bit of a nicer edge to them. You don't have to. But I like to add that into the swirls at different times, of course. Then we can go back in and you could use something like teardrops or dots, whatever you like to fill in some of that empty space. You see how nice that makes it look? Now, swirls can also be, if you were to continue from here, swirls can also be much more, hang on just one moment, I need a little bit more water, and I need to reload my brush again. So thin to thick to thin to thick to thin. And it's okay to go back and just fix it up. Okay. Then you can do other little designs. You can continue and continue with these swirls for as long as you want. Just keep practicing them and be sure that you're going from thin to thick to thin. Okay? So that is it for lesson number 8. Add a couple little stars in here just for some fun. Needed to be a little wetter, I think. Some teardrops. See, I would add a couple little teardrops in there just for the fun of it, which you can do to any spot. See how you're just building on your basic designs? So it's really nice to be able to start putting some of these things together. So I hope you enjoyed lesson number 8 in Swirls, and will join us for lesson number 9, which is going to be putting all of this stuff together for a cluster.